Hello, fellow spellcasters, this is Witchy Who, and I challenged myself to a very strange challenge, to say the least. So at one point I was going through my camera roll, and I discovered this little iMovie I created when I was bored back in 2017. I honestly don't know what I was thinking when I made it. And it was called Marie and the Dances of Victory, and it basically featured two of my stuffed animals competing in a dance competition with a twist, and that was the main theme. I developed a really strange lore with it for some reason, and yeah, I'm not proud of it at all, actually. But after going through my thoughts, I eventually settled on something that I wanted to do for my first traditional Thursday, and that was redesigning one of the characters, which was my Beanie Boo, Darlin, that I had. So Darlin in the movie worked alongside my Beanie Boo Zoe, and looking back on this now, I had a really weird way of constructing lore for this thing. Creating Darlin's human design was kind of a challenge for me because I didn't exactly know whether to go with a basic scientist look or she's kind of just an ordinary person. So eventually I settled on the decision that she would go for more of the ordinary person look, and she has hair curlers in her hair, which I thought of that when I pictured this little mini comic in my head of Darlin getting all stressed out, saying, and just pulling out her hair curlers from her hair and just saying how stressed she is, and that's kind of where the hair curlers thing originated from. So looking back on Darlin, I eventually kind of came across some of more of the weirder lore that I had. So apparently Darlin had this alternate universe counterpart coincidentally named AU Darlin. I thought of her as more of the actress version of Darlin. I don't know what I was thinking when I made this. But I eventually carried on to the decision that, well, AU Darlin was essentially also kind of more of a sassier version of Darlin herself. So let me just talk about the weird decisions that I kind of made while doing this. Honestly, this is the first time that I've gotten really personal in a YouTube video, so I may appear kind of uncomfortable. I eventually decided instead of going for a fancy A-actress kind of look for Darlin, I decided going for more of a fashionista look because, well, I had this whole idea of having one of those cliche, big, poofy jacket things that are leopard print that sometimes you see within overdramatic characters, mainly female. I'm thinking of giving a name to, well, these two characters that aren't their Beanie Boo names. Just let me know if you have any ideas. Anyway, so the whole concept that I went off of is the jacket in and of itself. The leopard print jacket was what inspired me to go with this really sassy version of Darlin's alternate universe counterparts. Funny thing is, I've always had the idea of creating a YouTube video which I humanize or create different human versions of toys or stuffed animals or just things in general, like a lot of people seem to do nowadays. So as strange as the concept was for me at the time, and it still kind of is, I've always had an idea of this being one of the first videos on my channel. Creating the designs for both Darlin and her alternate universe counterpart were really fun for me to do because I kind of stopped thinking of them as basically a stuffed animal, and I started thinking of them more as what if they actually weren't connected to this really weird iMovie that I created relating to my stuffed animals. Throwing away the concept that they were stuffed animals helped me experiment more with the characters themselves. And that's one of my favorite things that helped me experiment more with the character designs. And that, I think, is kind of the beauty of redesigning a character. You see what you did right, what you think you could have done better, how to improve, and sometimes in the process you just have to ignore what they were originally and able to actually, well, create them into something new, and that's what I ended up getting, considering all of this. One of my favorite parts of this challenge was actually doing the pose for AU Darlin, because I thought of her mainly as kind of a sneaky person. I have no idea why I had to make her the main antagonist in the first place. I didn't even know that I wanted a main antagonist for the thing altogether. Concept itself of an evil alternate version of somebody, I think, is not a new concept at all, and it's been overused and used many different times. Regardless, it was still really fun to play off the concept that essentially this alternate version was an evil clone of Darlin, and certainly did not have good intentions, even from the, dare I say it, original source material. Redesigning the two characters was a lot of fun because, in essentiality, I was kind of redesigning two complete polar opposites. AU Darlin was kind of this sly, not good-intentioned person who was also a fashionista in a sort of sense. Whereas Darlin, whenever she got the chance to, had great intentions, and even though she was a scientist, she would get stressed all the time for the well-being of the people that she cared about. As I expressed, she also gets easily stressed, such as the concept that I had for her hair curlers and stuff, which originated from the idea that if I ever created a little mini animation with Darlin herself, not the alternate universe version, it would kind of feature her pulling out her hair curlers. Second to last part of the redesigning process was pretty much outlining everything, and I have fond memories of when I used to do this all the time with the pen that I'm currently using, except I was not very good at outlining, so I haven't picked up this very pen in a while, and outlining my drawings is kind of a new concept to me at the moment. But I assure you, it no longer will be once I continue these traditional Thursdays. Being so micro-precisive for me was probably one of the most stressful parts in the process, mainly because, not just because I didn't pick up this pen in a very long time, but also because I was super worried about messing up one specific detail. I originally planned on coloring this whole thing, but then I decided to ditch the idea because I got inspired by a little speed paint that I created myself. I assure you, someday I will publish it, don't worry. So in other words, I haven't had very good experiences with pens and outlining my artwork, as I have witnessed in one of my sketchbooks that overuse this really bad outlining. But enough about me, let's put the actual art into the spotlight. So picking up from the art style that I used when I created a specific speed paint, it was pretty short, and I had this whole black and white style going on with you either had a bunch of white or a bunch of black, and it was really minimalistic in terms of shading and coloring. There was really only two colors that were being used, no grays and nothing actually that was mixing the two colors together, similar as to how I would use shading with a regular pen, in which, well, some types of pens are really hard on the shading no matter what you do. Taking this concept in mind, I kind of just went with my gut and shaded whatever I felt like needed to be shaded and outlined everything. It went smoothly than I thought it would be. I'm really happy with how the product was turning out in its outlining, especially experimenting with all the hard shading. I'm really proud of how it all came out and how just stylistic it looks. It's almost identical to the type of style that I used in that one speed paint I did of my alter ego. I'm especially proud that AU Darlin's expression to not get messed up in the process. That's pretty new for me. Although one thing I would definitely change is the feet for a You Darlin'. In a couple of years from now, I don't even think I would be able to tell the difference between Stubbs and the feet that I used for her. In the process of outlining, a scrapped concept that I originally thought of using was also using my charcoal pencil that I got to help out with some really soft outlining instead of everything being hard, but I really liked the hard stylistic choice that I used and how it came out, so I just kind of went with that and I scrapped using the charcoal for any really soft shading. Trying out this stylistic type of hard shading using only black as the color that I was using was also another really experimental thing that I tried out, and I just really like how stylistic and how expressive and sharp all the different lines are. If anything coming from me, I suggest that you should try a challenge in which the only colors that you use for a specific drawing are black and white. I know that in the future I might not look at this as something good that I actually created, but honestly, doing a challenge like this was really fun for me to do, and as I said earlier, super experimental. I really enjoyed the process and artistic growth. I also enjoyed just a lot of the different things with the outlining pen, especially creating the texture on Darlin's skirt. It was really simple, just doing some lines vertical and some lines horizontal. It was nice to have something sort of oddly satisfying to see on camera, actually. Although I was really worried about how the lines would end up turning out, and maybe I forgot a couple spots after I went over with my eraser and just erased all the different pencil lines. I realized that I didn't actually miss any pencil marks, and I'm really happy about that because that's also a first. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I had a lot of fun doing this challenge. The whole thing was just really experimental, and I'm really proud of how the finished result came out. Anyway, see you all on Sunday. This is Witchy Who signing off.